We'll begin with a seismic result from this Sunday afternoon. For the first time in 18 games, Leeds United have lost. It's after they were beaten 1-0 at Portsmouth. 3 reviews for Pompey. Swinney says, play up, Pompey. Scott says, love you, Pompey. A brilliant game, Justin. I know, obviously, the result itself is a big deal, but it was a really, really entertaining game. But the headline is, what a brilliant result for Portsmouth.
Yeah, as far as low-scoring games go, this was a really good one. There was a bit of drama. Obviously, again, being under the sunshine, I think just amplifies the mood of it being a good game. Maybe if it was cloudy, it'd have been a bit, yeah. But it is by the by. It was a brilliant result. And I think when you consider the entire 90 minutes, I would argue that Portsmouth are relatively comfortable. There's a couple of moments. There's Joel Pirro chance, and obviously the penalty where Matt Ritchie gets launched into the English Channel by, Matt Ritchie launches Dan James into the English Channel. But other than those two moments, I don't recall too many headaches for Portsmouth. So yeah, I thought it was a good performance.
I think it was an excellent performance from Portsmouth from start to finish. I will agree with you there. I think to say that Leeds didn't cause them any headaches would be a bit of a fib, because they missed some bloody massive chances. I'm sure Joel Pirro will be lying awake tonight thinking about those 2 sitters that he missed. I think Junior Firpo missed from a 1-on-1 as well. Leeds probably should have had a penalty in the first half too, as you mentioned. But every Portsmouth player from front to back was phenomenal. Nicholas Schmidt in the Pompey goal had the game of his life with 2 or 3 top-class saves. The defence battled like Trojans. I thought my 2 men of the matches, I guess, were Andre Dazelle and Freddie Potts in the middle of the park. They were both outstanding. I think Potts is going to be a really, really good player. Josh Murphy was a constant nightmare for Jayden Bogle. He really deserved a goal. And everyone in a Portsmouth shirt really stood out, but it was Colby Bishop who got the goal, and he took it superbly. Just quickly, Justin, actually, I know he's an easy target whenever we talk about Leeds not winning a game. But with the goal, I thought Ilya Meslier, he has to be coming out for that. I don't know what you thought. Yeah,
all you've got to sort of throw in the mix here is Colby Bishop renowned for his pace? Not really. He gets in behind that Leeds defence fairly easily, but that's going to happen. That's where you've got to look at your goalkeeper to reduce the gap and be more decisive. You either come out and get the ball, or you stay in your goal. And Colby Bishop has a big decision to make, or he's got a lot of time to make that decision, and it makes it even harder for a forward. Ultimately, he gets a free run because of that indecision, that poor decision making from Meslier. So yeah, I do think he was at fault. I really do. That being said, allowing a player of Colby Bishop's size and manoeuvrability to get behind your backline, I think, was also a poor effort from the Leeds centre-backs.
Well, I don't think you can blame the Leeds centre-backs, because by the time Bishop actually gets onto the end of that long ball, he's nearly in the 6-yard box. So, unfortunately, I think we have to chalk this down as another Ilya Meslier mistake, which is cost Leeds once again. Not the first time we've said that this season. I don't think he helps himself by the fact he's not very good at the look that footballers do after conceding a goal. You know,
he looks sad.
The one where, the one where you've got your hands on your hips, you're looking up into the distance. Meslier often starts smiling when he has made a mistake, which I don't think helps Leeds fans feel sorry for him.
Yeah, I always think he looks quite sad, like he's genuinely lost something in his career. Like it was a career-defining moment for him. Because if you go back to that Sunderland mistake,
I think you could argue they are, Justin, because every time they happen, he's looking at next season thinking, I'm not going to be number 1 here, am I?
Well, yeah, I think that's a given. But he just looks like a sad little boy, and it makes me really sympathise for him. Maybe it's he gives the puppy dog eyes for the effect. You know, he's cocked up, so he's like, oh, sorry, and he's being all cute.
Maybe that's what he's trying to go for. But anyway, Justin, this feels like the perfect moment to highlight what a fairy tale season it's been for Portsmouth's Colby Bishop, because this is a guy, right, who underwent open heart surgery at the start of the season. Open heart surgery. It doesn't get any more serious than that, really, does it? He missed the first 3 months of the season because of that. And now here he is, scoring the winning goal in one of Portsmouth's biggest wins of the last 15 years. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible comeback story from him, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I don't think you can undersell it in any way, and it's probably a story that deserves a lot more of a media spotlight than it gets. And I'm glad he's getting his moment in the spotlight by scoring this winner. His celebration was iconic as well, where he just flexes his biceps. But yeah, you just can't undersell how big of a comeback it is for Colby Bishop, because open heart surgery is a pretty serious procedure. It's it's not getting your appendix out, for example, although that is also serious. I've had it done, I know that. It's not a 3-week layoff. It's months out. It's will I ever play again? I imagine their regular checkups as well. It's incredible what he's been able to achieve in such a short period of time. Because you sort of expect these players who go through these procedures to be out for the season and take things very, very carefully. Portsmouth have had to rely on him quite significantly. It's worth pointing out, and he's delivered, with confidence, which again you just wouldn't expect from a player who's had really, really serious surgery. So it's incredible, and as I say, I'm glad he's getting his moment in the spotlight.
Yeah, it's been one of the stories of the season, hasn't it? And we'll give Portsmouth more credit shortly, but this result has certainly shaken up things at the top, hasn't it? Even more so because you had Sheffield United getting another win, Burnley getting another win, Sunderland won as well. We won't completely rule them out just yet. And Leeds have now gone from having a 7-point cushion just over a week ago to now having just a 2.1 level on points with Sheffield United. And while I don't think we can accuse them of parting in sort of a falling manner just yet, Justin, maybe this promotion race isn't going to be as straightforward as we may have thought.
It is worth pointing out they have 3 midday kickoffs between now and the end of the season, which I think will have a significant. I know you do quash it, but this is a serious thing, and I'm going to go a lot more of a deep dive into this over the next couple of weeks as those games approach, because I genuinely do think this is impacting performances and results. To win just 3 of the last 13
Justin, if
midday
we've got
kickoffs.
So much time on this podcast, can we talk about something a bit more serious, please, than your conspiracy theories? Because you're one step away from burning down a 5G mast when it comes to this bloody lunchtime kickoffs. Bollocks.
Depends how many 5G masts around these grounds that they're losing at. But no, I do think it is impacting things, and they've got three midday kickoffs between now and the end of the season.
Right. Stop that for a sec. Explain right now why you think this is a genuine factor, and people can decide for themselves whether you're mad or not.
Well, the stats back it up for starters. It's 3 and 13. It's 3 wins in 13 lunchtime kickoffs, right? That's a significant. That stretches back to last March. I think it was against Plymouth, and that run of form there with these types of games, I think, is something that needs to be taken serious from a Leeds point of view. There'll be other teams that go through it. You look at Jurgen Klopp, for example, who berated early kickoffs because they impact the quality of the games, and I think that is a case as well. You look at Leeds' success in night games. You look at Sunderland and Sheffield United, they don't play that same intensity in these midday kickoffs, for example. They don't play with the same intensity at all.
Why does it matter, though? Because the team they're facing has exactly the same amount of time to prepare for that game.
I know, but they're coming up against a team who they know they're going to defend against. So they don't have to approach the game with the same intensity. They're playing a flatter back line, a more compact line. They're not going chasing after Leeds. You ain't got to look at the numbers about your chances that Leeds concede, for example. Teams don't go after Leeds like Leeds go after other opposition. So as I say, the intensity will play a huge part.
What's that got to do with lunchtime kickoffs?
The reason why I think it does is because I think your preparation is completely different.
You've got the same preparation as the other team.
But like I said, the intensity comes into it. You can't just disregard the fact that intensity comes into it.
It's absolute bollocks, is what it is. Correlation doesn't necessarily equal causation, Justin. That's the bottom line here. So the fact that it's happened doesn't necessarily mean they struggle with early kickoffs. It's just pure coincidence. And to just be saying that means that Leeds struggle with early kickoffs is just nonsense. It really is. I mean, maybe maybe, have you thought about this? Maybe it's because in those games they've been selected for TV coverage because it's a big game against a side which Leeds may struggle against. Maybe that's a more likely a reason than, oh, the preparation's a bit different because they're having to kick off 2 hours earlier than usual. That's what I would say. But anyway, let's get back onto the topic at hand here, which is the fact that the promotion race is looking very much more open now than it was 24 hours ago. Because I thought after Leeds beat Sheffield United, that was it. Leeds would be going up and winning the league. And I still think they will at this moment in time, particularly when 7 of their remaining 10 games are against sides in the bottom half. It's worth mentioning. I'm obviously not as confident as I was earlier today. So I think that goes to show how big a result this is. Because the way I look at it, if Joel Pirro puts away either of those chances in this game, we'd probably be sat here now talking about a Leeds win, and we'd just be ticking that off as another victory in their season. So I don't think anyone's falling apart yet or anything like that. But I did see elements of that because you had players double thinking things. And I don't know, maybe it was just a bad day at the office. But what I will say is the 3 teams behind them, they'll be licking their lips all of a sudden, won't they? Because this big, juicy first place spot isn't looking so unattainable all of a sudden. And that's why the 2 games for Leeds this week, I think, are absolutely gigantic now for their season, Justin.
Well, Leeds need to regain momentum that they got from those big wins against Sunderland. For example, the late victories, they're absolutely huge, aren't they? And again, you got Burnley who just tick over nicely, and Sheffield United do exactly the same thing. And I think it's much easier when you're chasing down opposition, which is probably where this falling apart notion comes into it, because Leeds usually are setting the pace. I know it stretches from before the BLC years, but Leeds were a bit of a comedy club at that point because of ridiculous ownership. But since the Bielsa years, since he came in, they were setting the pace. So they've never really been the chasing pack themselves. But that ramps up the pressure, I think, a little bit. And you are right. We did see players double thinking things in this Portsmouth game. But I think that happens when you start to miss chance after chance after chance. You start to overthink things quite significantly. And what they've got to do, and what Daniel Farke's got to do, is reset that mindset and mentality and go again. But I do agree, this is a huge week. I think we'll know more about this Leeds team after this next 7 days than probably we knew about them with those 2 late victories that they've just had.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Leeds have got Millwall at home in midweek, which is has the potential to be a banana skin. I think we can say that much. And then they've got QPR away next weekend. So a big week for Leeds and their promotion hopes. It's not just a significant result at the top of the table, though. It's a big result at the bottom of the table as well, because Portsmouth are now 10 points clear of the relegation zone. And prior to this weekend, I was saying they're very close to us being able to say they are safe. I think I'm willing to say they are now, Justin. Are you?
I think with the result and the performance, I would expect that to be the case. I do still have my doubts defensively. I mean, Neil Warnock said himself that he reckons he's quicker than Marlon Pack. Now, I think it does do a lot more convincing when they beat a Leeds compared to when they, if they would have beaten a team in and around them, because they're up against a team with a lot of pace, a lot of directness, and they can just cut you open at will. And I don't think they did that all too often. I know they did have chances, Leeds, but I just don't think there were too many headaches from Portsmouth. You're going to concede chances, obviously against this Leeds team, because they're bloody talented and they're well drilled as well. But I think from a Portsmouth point of view, it would take an almighty cock up for them to drop off. Their form has been sustainable in recent weeks. Their performances have been consistent as well. And they're being clinical in the right moments. They had the great chance from Colby Bishop where Conor Ogilvie plays an inch perfect, flank ball, shall we say, into that corridor of uncertainty, as the goalkeeper cliches like to throw out there. And Colby Bishop ate it up. So there's a lot of variables here that are working in Portsmouth's favour. John Mousinho, I think his game plans are working effectively as well. I'm really impressed with them at the moment. So yeah, as I say, it will take an almighty cock up for them to really drop off.
Well, it's a season that's got better and better as time has gone on, hasn't it? It's easy to forget that they only won one of their first 14. And, I mean, they weren't helped by one of the most difficult starts to a season you can possibly imagine in terms of fixtures, but they could have very easily sacked John Mousinho after that tricky start. However, they stood by him, and it's turned out to be a great decision. And they've become one of my favourite teams to watch this season because they do play some really nice stuff, and they're also able to knuckle down and grind out points, highlighted perfectly by the fact that none of the top three have scored at Fratton Park this season, which is pretty impressive, isn't it? So I think that's safety secured for them now. And to do with that, with 10 games to go, with a side who have been newly promoted to the Championship and one of, if not the lowest budgets in the league, it's quite remarkable, really. So everyone at Portsmouth should regard this as a big success of the season, a big success of a season. And they are just about there in terms of safety, in my view. Portsmouth have also signed a player this week, Justin, former Sweden international Alexander Milosevic. He was briefly at Nottingham Forest a few years ago, which I don't particularly remember. But Erling Haaland once accused him of calling him a whore and saying he was going to break his legs.
Seems a mad bastard.
Not very nice, is it?
Seems a mad bastard. That's what we like to see.
Yeah.
I can't say too much about Milosevic, but if he's calling the world's best number 9 or calling him a whore and saying he's going to break his legs, then he's got some balls about him. Yeah, that's what you need.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on, I guess. Let's go to Pride Park, because after just 2 points in their last 12 league games, Derby County were victorious for the first time since Boxing Day. It also gave John Eustace his first win in charge of the Rams, and it came against his former club Blackburn. 2-1 it finished. 3 reviews for Derby. Brad says Eustace slaps snakes. Sounds like a euphemism, that does, doesn't it? Daj Merchant says won it twice. Dwayne says massive Ebu Adams. For Blackburn, Clark says saw it coming. Stephen says Rovers predictably shite. Dave on our Patreon says fuck off Eustace. You had thousands of Blackburn fans making the trip down for this one, equipped with inflatable snakes and all, eagerly anticipating a victory over the manager who so ruthlessly ditched them less than a month ago. But it ended with John Eustace getting the last laugh. What a result for his new side, Justin.
Yeah, it was absolutely huge. I let out a little yelp when I saw the ticker come up with Craig Forsyth scoring after 3 minutes, to be honest with you, because not only did Derby score a goal, but they took a lead, which is just incredible. But I think you can't really underestimate how big this is in terms of 3 points. And I think when you bring in the narrative of it, Eustace needed this. Not only did he need it because he lost his first 3 games in charge at Derby, but also he needed it because of the amount of fury that came from Blackburn and his departure. I do think that does gloss over some real big issues at Blackburn with the ownership, but that's by the by. I think fans have got to direct their hate somewhere, and unfortunately it's towards Eustace, and he left them. That's absolutely justifiable to an extent. But yeah, in terms of getting this 3 points, it could be huge. It's no point getting carried away from a Derby perspective, but they've not tasted victory since Boxing Day. So yeah, what does this feel like? I have no idea.
Justin, I was telling you after Derby's last home game how I got my dad and I half-season tickets, and we hadn't seen Derby score at Pride Park yet. Well, my brother came to this game. It was his first game of the year, saw 2 goals in the first 7 minutes. Typical, isn't it? Yeah. But that really sucked the life out of this game from a Blackburn perspective. The fans were clearly well up for it in the minutes before and after kickoff, but then 2 of the scrappiest goals you'll see was a great way to kill that optimism. And I did look at the clock after 20 minutes and thought to myself, are we going to be watching 70 minutes here of Derby with virtually 11 men behind the ball? And maybe it wasn't that bad, but it was quite a low block for the duration of this game. In the end, though, Blackburn did provide a huge threat, really, other than the goal, and Derby fully deserved the points. And I imagine John Eustace feels rather smug after this. Not that he would admit it, but he must feel like he's finally got some justification for making that controversial move. He's been waiting a while for some justification, hasn't he?
Well, yes. It's like he's joined a team in the bottom 3 that were not backed in January against a team who are relatively comfortable in the top half and pushing for the playoffs. So yeah, I think smugness probably wouldn't be the right way of describing it. Relief
I'm just joshing, Justin.
I
We like to have fun here.
You want to poke the Blackburn fans. I get it. And obviously, I am delighted because being a Derby fan, it's important. And it is a huge result for them. But I think from a Blackburn point of view, and this what might lull Derby fans into maybe a bit of a false sense of security, is the goals were very avoidable from Blackburn. They were so poorly conceded and messy. And it's not like Derby carved Rovers open. Came from set pieces, which we've been banging the drum isn't sustainable from Derby's point of view in terms of guiding them out of the bottom three. But the 2-0 lead gave them a lot of comfort, and they managed that game, I think, relatively well. I know Blackburn had opportunities and there were scary moments, but that's going to happen in a championship game. But they were organised, they were tough to break down. So, yeah, getting that early lead, I think, just brought about a lot of relief and, de-stressed everybody, I think.
I mean, we talk a lot about how Blackburn fans aren't very happy with John Eustace, but I did notice he shook hands with just about every Blackburn player after the game. Many of them were hugging him as well, and I think that just goes to show, despite all the pantomime that's been involved with this move over the past month, John Eustace is a good bloke, and he didn't celebrate in front of the Blackburn fans, swinging his shirt around his head or anything like that. And despite all the inflatable snakes, he's never had a bad word to say in public about Blackburn, and he's always been very professional about the whole thing. But look, I did speak to a couple of Rovers fans after the game, and they were saying, good luck for the season. You've got a top manager, and I suppose Blackburn fans wouldn't be feeling as upset about him going if they didn't rate him as a manager, would they? Because I mean, the only thing I'll say about the Eustace drama is, and I don't mean to rub salt in the wounds for Blackburn fans, but it feels a bit ironic giving stick to their former manager, calling him a snake, waving inflatable snakes and what have you, while also holding up a banner complaining about their ownership. Why did you leave us, John? While also holding up a banner saying their owners have no ambition. Sort of feels like the question's been answered there, really, doesn't it? But anyway, a huge result for Derby. Their first win in 13 in the league, made more significant by the fact they were the only team in the bottom 7 to win this weekend. In fact, the rest of the bottom 5 all lost. So how big a win could this be in Derby's season, Justin?
Well, I think, if them winning is massive. But them winning and Luton, Plymouth losing, Stoke losing, Cardiff losing, Hull dropping points, that's where you look at it and go, okay, this is significant. Like I was saying, though, it's not like Derby carved Blackburn open. There's still a lot of problems. They've got a lot of injuries as well, which is ugly. There are a few key players out injured for several weeks now, and new striker Salverson's out for the season. It's still a complicated scenario at Derby. This win does bring about a lot of relief, as I was saying. But we've said it with a lot of teams, even Luton last week. You've got to back up your previous win with another win, or at least a result. Obviously, Luton didn't manage it. Derby have got to do it against Coventry, against a team who have won 9 in 10. That's where you start to make your judgment on where they can go. If they can replicate this performance and get the fast start going again and come away with 3 points against Coventry, against their old manager Frank Lampard, again, love the narrative. That's where you start to go, okay, that Blackburn game was a turning point. Right now, it's just 3 points.
Yeah, I take your point, Justin. I think you're not far wrong there, to be honest. I think actually scoring a goal is a good start because they've been so abysmal going forwards for weeks, haven't they? So getting that monkey off the back is a good start. But Derby have been seriously lacking in confidence. So anyway, any win was always going to be huge in every department. And I think we have to keep in mind, Derby were a mid-table side up until Boxing Day. So they're not a complete lost cause. It's just about getting these players playing again. And there's still a way to go with them being 4 points from safety, don't get me wrong. But 7 of their remaining 10 games are against sides in the bottom half, which could be significant. I haven't probably looked at the run-in for the other teams fighting to stay up, but that must be one of, if not the best run-in out of the teams down there. So this definitely has the potential to be the turning point for Derby, but at the moment it's just potential. It depends how they build upon it from here, doesn't it? They have been dealt a blow for the season, though, Justin, because, as you mentioned, Lars-Jørgen Salverson, who's the new striker that they signed in January, he's been ruled out for the rest of the season through injury. A bit of good news, though. They've re-signed Jeff Hendrick. 9 years after leaving the Rams, he returns on a deal until the end of the season. Jeff Hendrick? Who's next? Richard Keogh? Jake Buxton?
I like how you say, bad news, their new striker's injured. Good news, though, Derby County has signed 33-year-old Jeff Hendrick, who's not played for a club for 11 months.
Yeah.
Just the relief you need. Big take here about Jeff Hendrick. I think Sean Dyche coached all the goodness out of him while he was at Burnley.
Ooh.
If you look at any of Jeff Hendrick's clips from his Derby days, didn't get that at Burnley, and then his career's just dropped off since then. So, Sean Dyche, what have you done to my boy?
Well, I'm sure Burnley fans who don't have anything against us right now will be absolutely fine with you saying that. Justin, we will shortly be talking about the Mark Robins derby, Coventry v Stoke. But firstly, let's look at how our bet builder got on from that game, because a £10 stake was due to return £102 with SBK. We had Coventry to win, of course, a winner. We had both teams to score, also a winner. But we also had Ellis Sims to score, which didn't come in, as well as under 3.5 cards. There were 4, including 3 in the final 10 minutes, which is just annoying for a bet builder, isn't it? But onto our multiple, where a £10 stake was due to return £146. We had Coventry to win. Yes. Sheffield United. Yes. West Brom. Yes. And Blackburn. Damn it. Of course, Derby cost us. They've been blighting our season, haven't they, really? But whatever. We'll be back with our next round of picks in this coming Friday's preview show, brought to you by SBK. Just we'll have a quick break. After that, we'll talk about that Mark Robins derby, as well as Plymouth being extraordinarily poopy. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast, and it's now time for us to reveal the winner of our latest edition of Jameson's Weekend Hero, because every single week we're asking you to nominate a fellow Championship fan that you believe deserves recognition. Now, it could be someone who drove you to a recent away day, or it could be a friend or a relative who got you into supporting your club in the first place. Whatever it is, we want to find out. So to nominate your Jameson Weekend Hero from this weekend, send us a voice note right now on WhatsApp explaining your nomination. The number is in the show notes. And of course, if we pick you, you win a bottle of bloody Jameson to share with your winner. This weekend's hero is from Joe, who wanted to nominate Connor.
Hi, my name's Joseph. I'm a Sheffield United fan, and the person I'd like to nominate is called Connor Tordoff, who's also a Sheffield United fan. He's been a season ticket holder at Sheffield United for a few years now, and one good story I have from him and Sheffield United is we play quite a lot of tennis together, and we were playing a doubles match together. And our doubles matches always tended to last a really long time. And we got tickets for Sheffield United against Wigan when they were in League One probably about 10 years ago. And the match kept on going for ages, and we were getting stressed that we were going to miss the match. Eventually, we managed to get the match finished, got to the football in time, and Sheffield United then lost 2-0 to Wigan.
I was really wondering where that story was going then. I was so confused for half of that, Justin.
So stupid. I love it.
Really, really confused. And for about half of that, I was like, what is going on? Are we talking about this? But yeah, I suppose that just about sums it up, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, you could have just called the game, lads. Just ended it early. You could have ended it
I assume
early.
they must have been playing competitively, not against each other. They weren't like so determined to find out the winner between the two of them. They must have been playing against someone else.
It would make sense. I mean, if they're playing tennis all the time together, there'll be times after this where they can define who's better at tennis if they're playing against each other. But if it's competitive, then they're absolutely fair enough. I apologise. But you could have just ended it. And then the absolute kick in the nuts there is losing 2-0, rushing, maybe not doing your best and not enjoying your activity as best as you can, as much as you can. And losing 2-0 in League One. Eesh.
Yeah. We've all been there, lads. Don't you worry about that. But here we go. Let's raise a glass of Jameson ginger and lime to Connor. Justin and I are going to have a swig to honour this occasion. I think I'm going to be having a fair few of those over Cheltenham week, Justin. Ooh, you'll be delighted to know.
I bet.
Yeah, I bet I will. Yeah. Not the only bet I'm going to be winning this week. So to nominate your Jameson Weekend Hero, send us a voice note right now on WhatsApp. It just needs to be about a minute long. The number is in the show notes, and you could be next week's winner. You must be over 18 to enter. UK only, and T's and C's apply. Let's go to the Mark Robins derby then, because he didn't have a nice time in his return to Coventry City. His former Flame beat his current side Stoke 3-2, thanks to a 97th minute winner from Bobby Thomas. 3-word reviews for Coventry. Katie says, mighty Sky Blues. Peter says, my arms hurt. Sky Blue Cal on our Patreon says, 3-point cushion. For Stoke, Nick says, actually hard half decent. Wayne says deserved a point. Rushy says Stoke being Stoke. Ian says lazy last minute. Yeah, a crazy game really, because Stoke equalised in the 86th minute through Sam Gallagher. Incredible scenes in the away end for Stoke. They're going mad, thinking they've got themselves a point. But then Bobby Thomas finds the winner with a brilliant finish by a centre-back, by the way, to get Coventry their 9th win in 10 league games. Incredible stuff, Justin.
Yeah, it really was incredible. As far as absolute twists go in a championship game, this was it, because I didn't see Coventry winning it, not in the way they did, just because the crowd felt flat, momentum drifted away, and just what proceeded after was fantastic. Absolute scenes, as the not now kids, but our generation would say. It was fantastic. It was brilliant, and that's the Frank Lampard effect, I think.
Do kids nowadays not say absolute scenes?
I feel like
that
that's something that was said maybe like 2016, and those people have now grown up, and that's us.
Oh,
because the kids nowadays say top riz, something like that.
Top riz, slaps.
Yeah.
And I don't know any others because I'm not down with the kids. But yeah, this was a bonkers game, really, wasn't it? Even with all the sideshow of Mark Robbins coming back, there was an awful lot going on the pitch. 5 goals, 2 of which came late on for either side. But there was a fair bit of controversy because Coventry had a pretty obvious penalty shout turned down for a foul by Vitty Hansen, which wasn't given. I don't know how. Stoke's equaliser was also fractionally offside. But then for Coventry's winner, Haji Wright was also offside in the build-up. So just an absolute free-for-all, really. At the end of the day, though, it is another win. And as I say, it's 9 wins in 10, which is Coventry's best ever league form, which is mad, really, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah, it is crazy. But yeah, all credit's got to go to Frank Lampard. I know Coventry fans will think we're saying this through the our teeth, but if managers can prove us wrong and change our opinions, then they're doing a really good job. They're doing a really, really good job. And yes, I'm not 100% sold on Frank Lampard because, 2.5 year deal, 3.5 year deal? There's a long time for him to justify things and prove us wrong. But what he's doing, i.e. turning out Coventry's best ever league form, is incredible. It's incredible. It's a satisfying middle finger to those who are the doubters, which are us, and amongst others. But 9 wins in 10 is fantastic, and it's rare we do see that at this level. You've got to really, really throw that out there. And that only defeat came against came at the hands of Leeds, who, by the way, are a very good football team. So yeah, Frank Lampard, brilliant. I want him to prove us wrong. That needs to happen, because if we're right about everything, podcasting's boring.
Yeah, because we're always right about everything, aren't we? But yeah, everything seems to be going Coventry's way right now, doesn't it? The form is ridiculous. 9 wins in 10 doesn't happen by accident, does it? And Frank Lampard deserves a lot of credit for that. This is a very talented group of players, and he's finally getting them playing. What I will say... Oh, God, I'm going to get bollocked for this. What I will say is... what I've been saying recently, really, that I think they have been fortunate with some of their more recent wins. When this run of 9 wins in 10 started, they were undeniably brilliant. They genuinely were. And I don't think recently they've been playing as well in their more recent games. I thought Stoke had the better chances over the 90 minutes this past weekend. They weren't great against a pretty poor Oxford side. They didn't deserve anything away at Sheffield Wednesday and got a last-minute winner against QPR. So I am nitpicking here, I know I am, but do you know what it reminds me of, Justin? It reminds me of Frank Lampard's Derby.
Yes.
They didn't dominate games as much as their results suggested, and I think we're seeing shades of that here. And look, full credit to Frank Lampard for the turnaround in fortunes at Coventry. He deserves full credit for that. And he's got them in a great position to get a playoff place, but I don't think they've been as brilliant recently as their form might suggest. I'll probably get accused of sour grapes for that reason, Justin, but that's what I would say. What do you think?
No, I think, again, if you look at this Stoke game in isolation, I thought Coventry didn't really control it. I thought they were quite poor, very open, and that allowed Stoke into it a lot more than it should have. They lost control completely, Coventry. And you are right. This is what we witnessed as Derby fans on a relatively weekly basis. These types of performances where you come away with 3 points, but you're wondering how. And then you sort of attribute it to Frank Lampard being just a very good coach. That being said, you've got to look at the entirety of Coventry and their progress under him compared to Mark Robins. No disrespect to Mark Robins. They're just different coaches and different managers. That's absolutely fine. There's a lot more fluidity in this Coventry team, with the central midfielders, with the wing backs, and that's probably more than what we ever saw under Mark Robins. I'm not saying it's better, but the structure of this team is entirely different. And I think that's leaving them a little bit more open in games. I think their defence has been okay and has been edging against opposition, but it is catching up with them a little bit, and maybe the result will hopefully change on Tuesday against Derby. But as I say, I think the XG side of things will paint a picture of luck. But as I say, I think there's more nuance to their game, and I think winning games as well is a reflection of the quality they have, the players, and the mentality that Frank Lampard has instilled in the team, which is obviously not measurable in numbers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I take your point there, Justin. It's just 2 wins in 11 now for Mark Robins since taking over at Stoke. Only Derby and Luton have won fewer points in that time than them. They're 4 points above the relegation zone. And I think they're quite fortunate in a way, Justin, that the bottom 3 have been so bad. Because while they're not in imminent danger, that danger is sort of looming in the background, isn't it, with Stoke?
Well, that's exactly what I was saying in our preview episode is they are going to be outshitted if they're going to stay in the championship, which is a very, very simple way of saying they're relying on the bottom 3 not being better than them, which is obviously going to be the case. But if they're going to sort of shine more light on it, Stoke cannot play their way out of trouble. They are relying on Derby and Luton not picking up enough points. I think Plymouth are lost cause at the moment. Derby and Luton are the team that they've got to really, really worry about. And it's frustrating because if you look at this performance, I'd be quite content with it if they can replicate this performance and carry this standard and the quality that they did show. Apart from the moments that they did concede, which were really poor goals to concede, but going forwards and creating chances and that mentality to get back into it, you've got to take those positives. They have to, because there's nothing else to take at the moment. The team's so low on confidence. But there is something there to build on. There is something there. We saw flashes of it against Coventry. It's just, I'm not convinced I'm going to see it in the next game because we've not seen it all season. We've not seen it week after week. That's what they've got to do. They've got to convince the fans, almost the players as well. It's such a scary scenario that Stoke have been in. I think this is the closest they've been to relegation since they've got relegated from the Premier League, which is absolutely bonkers considering the financial power they have.
Yeah, well, let's be really honest. They're bad, aren't they? They are a really bad team. And if they do stay up this season, you're absolutely right, Justin, they will be outshitted. It is more of a case of 3 being worse than them than Stoke being better than them, if that makes any sense at all. But I do think they could be sweating between now and May because we've seen very few signs of life. Yes, the Coventry game we saw some signs of life, so that should be a small source of encouragement, but it's the first time we've seen that in a while because they have been very poor. So was it just a flash in the pan? We'll wait and see. It is worth remembering the only way they are going to be made to sweat, though, is if at least one of Derby, Luton or Plymouth do pick up. Now, I'm not sure about Plymouth anymore, but Derby getting their first win since Boxing Day, could that be a catalyst? Luton won last weekend. I don't think a revival can be ruled out despite this weekend's results. So I'd be nervous if I was a Stoke fan from our perspective, Justin, as 2 people covering the championship, but also happening to be fans of one of those teams in the bottom 3. I would say Stoke are 100% the side in my crosshairs right now. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I think Cardiff, if you look at them, they show moments where they can go and pick up a couple of wins in a row. Similarly with Hull, they can play their way out of it as well. Stoke are the ones that it's an ugly scenario. The team's got absolutely no confidence. I think losing Tom Cannon in January, Ali Al-Hamadi, I think is a good player. But again, you put him in a team that's got no confidence, which is you're always going to struggle. And then the rest of it is just a nightmare. It's a nightmare. The recruitment policy over the years has really dumbed them down. That's where they're struggling. I just don't think the players are good enough. And obviously, when you take confidence out of it, yeah, Mark Robins is he's struggling.
Burnley cruised past Luton 4-0 with the Hatters down to 10 men for over 70 minutes of this game. 3 reviews for Burnley. Jordan says, boring Burnley. Connor says, very fortunate Burnley. Caroline says, jammy 23 undefeated. Tomo Claret says, they're just lucky. Yeah, I think some of those were a bit sarcastic after I accused Burnley of being fortunate recently. I'm glad Burnley have proven me wrong by beating second from bottom of 10 men. But Cal Naismith getting 2 yellow cards after just 19 minutes. Yeah, I'm not even going to ask you whether they were sending off worthy, Justin. I think a better question is this the stupidest sending off of the season?
Yeah, it's 2 brain dead decisions, aren't they, really? You've got an experienced player like Cal Naismith. You rely on his experience, you need him in this game. So when players like him are making those sorts of decisions, 2 really late challengers, you worry about the rest of the season and the rest of the players. It's ridiculous decision making from a very reliable player, and a very experienced. Very daft.
Yeah, it's absolutely brain dead, isn't it? To be diving in like that on a yellow card is absolutely mad. What are you laughing at?
He had the balls to complain about it as well. Dude, read the room. It's terrible.
Yeah. You're not wrong. I tell you what, actually, the challenge which got him a yellow card in the first place, I thought that was a bad one. I thought another referee might have sent him straight off for that. So he clearly woke up that day and chose violence, because I just don't know what was going through his mind with either of those challenges. And yes, Hull fans may be saying there was a pretty stupid sending off in their game as well, but I think this one definitely takes the biscuit for probably the season. And from that point on, it was always going to be a straightforward one for Burnley. As soon as they got that first goal, it was virtually game over, wasn't it? Because it's hard enough scoring against Burnley with 11 men when it's with 10 and you're the lowest scorers in the league. That was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's hard scoring against Burnley, but it's not hard conceding against. No, it's hard to concede against him. Yeah, we'll go with that. Because you call me an idiot for saying this, but as I say, I feel like defending against 10 at home might be a bit of a mini nightmare for Burnley. But I think being helped by Mark McGuinness scoring a goal that Pippo Inzaghi, world-class poacher once was, would kick his nan for. It was, I think, after that sending off, Burnley just got the bit between their teeth, and then they went with it, and they took advantage of a team who was simply not good enough. And neither have got the mentality to do anything about it. But what I liked mostly about this Burnley performance after that sending off is how relentless they were at getting crosses in from the byline. Now, I think this is a really important thing for Burnley, because that is your sort of attacking 101. If you can get to the byline and get balls into the 6-yard box, your chances of scoring are very, very high. And it shows that you're cutting teams open. But
what about when you go over the byline, Justin, like they did for the third goal?
Less said about that one, the better. Doesn't matter. Luton were going to lose anyway. But all 4 goals came from decisive wing play, which I really, really enjoyed. Really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, the goal I was just mentioning then it was Burnley's third. It's very clearly gone out of play. How the linesman didn't spot that, I have no idea. But look, Justin's right. It didn't matter in the end. And it's a shame, because I had a sneaky feeling Luton might frustrate Burnley here, but that red card meant it was always going to be a walkover from that point, and it was exactly that. What does it mean in the grand scheme of things? Hard to say. I don't think we've particularly learned anything about Burnley here. They've kept the pressure on the top 2, which is the main thing, and taken advantage of Leeds' slip-up, obviously. It's probably more significant for Luton to see how they were going to build upon their first win since Christmas last weekend, wasn't it? It was always going to be difficult getting anything away at Burnley, and their chances of doing anything were very quickly kneecapped by Cal Naismith being stupid in this
Literally
one.
Kneecapped,
yeah.
You're spot on. I know you say we don't not learn much about Burnley, but I think just the manner in which they scored their goals was just really impressive. And I think that will give their creative play a lot more confidence. And again, just remove that anxiety that sometimes you do feel at Turf Moor, which is going to be really important. We're in the business end eve. Business end's coming up. Pressure ramps up, and that can really impact teams. We speak about Leeds falling apart. Other teams do it as well. So I think, that type of performance, that type of win was needed, I think, from Burnley's point of view, because that convinces you that maybe they can chase down Leeds.
Luton remain 23rd, 5 points from safety. They've got Cardiff away in midweek.
Oh.
It's a massive game in the relegation fight, isn't it? Burnley, on the other hand, they stay third. They're 2 points behind Leeds and Sheffield United. Plymouth Argyle 0, Sheffield Wednesday 3. 3-word reviews for Plymouth. Raw says not championship standard. James says worse than Rooney. Timmy says we are down. Yeah, Wednesday had lost 4 in 5 heading into this, so a big win for them. But unfortunately, Wednesday fans, my main focus after this game was how shocking Plymouth were. Once again, Justin, they were appalling here.
Yeah, from start to finish. Well, I say start to finish. First 5-10 minutes, Plymouth are okay. And go Sheffield Wednesday, yeah, a few problems, and it could have been different. But I think the way Sheffield Wednesday then approached the game was, yeah, it made it really difficult for Plymouth. And Plymouth were outclassed in every department. They were outpressed. They were outplayed. You know, Sheffield Wednesday looked far more confident. A team that have lost a lot of games, and I think Miramusa just delivered a lot more than Wayne Rooney ever did. I do disagree with that comment about it being worse than Wayne Rooney. I think Music arguably has a weaker squad to work with because there's no Sissoko, no Whittaker. So going forward, you're bereft of ideas a little bit. But I don't see anything in this team anymore. I think the fight's gone. I think a lot of the momentum came with that FA Cup run. Now they don't have it. And the reality of the Championship has now set in. When you're getting beaten like this to Wednesday, who are in the form that they're in, I think that tells you a lot about where your season's going.
Well, without repeating myself here, this is a team who have beaten Brentford and Liverpool this season. Literally last weekend, they went to Man City, gave them a scare, albeit briefly, but it was a scare nonetheless. And the fans were buzzing after that. Justin, across my Twitter timeline, it was just Plymouth fans saying how proud they were of the team. Yeah. And what we've had since is 2 performances of the lowest quality. Like possibly Plymouth's 2 worst performances of the season. And that's saying something. Justin, they didn't manage a shot from the 28th minute onwards.
Yeah.
The 28th minute.
They don't like shooting, do they? They don't like shooting, do they, Plymouth? Bloody hell.
No, they didn't have many shots against Hull in midweek either. Yeah, but look, Wednesday didn't score their second until the 41st minute. It's embarrassing, really. And Justin, we saw Plymouth have a mini upturn in the league during February. They only lost 1 in 6, won 2 of them, which is pretty good by Plymouth standards this season, but that appears to be in a false dawn, doesn't it?
A flash in the pan. Yeah, that's literally what it was. I think they get that new manager bounce. I think they get compact and they get difficult to break down and play against, but they don't really develop from there. And I think that's really where they've gone completely wrong. I think Mutric needed to. They still play with fear. They still play not to concede, which I think is just it's difficult to approach with Plymouth because they are so poor. They're not the worst side we've seen at Championship level, but they are one of the worst because they just offer nothing going forwards, and they're being well beaten by teams that, with all due respect to the teams they are being beaten by recently, they shouldn't be being as easily beaten by them, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know where Plymouth go from here because the momentum that came with that FA Cup run has just gone within 5 days, which is astounding because that gave me confidence that they were hard to play against, and it gave the fans something to buzz about. Now there's nothing. They're losing games again, and unfortunately they're rock bottom of the Championship, and it's hard to see that changing.
Well, not too long ago, Plymouth were looking dead and buried. Then Muslic managed to come in, breathe some life into the team, and I was wondering whether he might be able to see a remarkable survival job. But since then, things have dropped off, and these last 2 performances in particular have been appalling. I really can't emphasise enough to anyone who hasn't seen either of these 2 games just how bad Plymouth were. And we heard it just then, that it's led to some Plymouth fans questioning whether Muslic is actually any better than Rooney, which does feel a bit overdramatic to me. But the fact that's even being talked about says a lot. So It's been a pretty mad 7 days, really, for Plymouth fans, going from pure elation after that Man City game to a pit of despair. And I think this could be the season-defining week coming up for Plymouth, Justin, because they've got Portsmouth away on Wednesday night. Big game. And then Derby at home, which is just a huge, huge game, isn't it? Relegation 6-pointer, if ever there was one. And I would go as far to say, if Plymouth don't win either of those games, then they're as good as down. What do you think?
They need a big week, don't they? They need a big week because they need to respond. And then when you've got a game as big as that against Derby, because you look at the home form, that's where they really look the most convincing. But you're being as easily passed by, from Sheffield Wednesday, who were in poor form. It just, as I say, it's deflating. So, I think if they come out of this next week without anything to show for it, it's hard to see them getting out of out the bottom three.
Plymouth did provide iced buns with a Sheffield Wednesday badge on them.
I think they do that regularly.
Do they? I didn't know that.
I think they do, yeah. It's a nice touch, but you want to be hard to play against. You want your ground to be hard to come to. Don't give the opposition fans bloody ice buns.
What if they eat so many that they can't sing? You ever thought about
that? How many ice buns would you need to not be able to sing?
Probably about 3. I get tired very easily after eating. Moving on to more food-related matters, Justin. Did see a Wednesday fan has been sent a signed onion from Sunderland's Luke 09. I think it's the Wednesday fan who said in that video, "Come on, Wednesday." So Sunderland used that clip in a TikTok video. And then the guy who did the Come On Wednesday did a video where he complained to Sunderland about using that clip, and he demanded a signed onion from who he called Luke Onion. It's just so stupid. And Sunderland posted a video of Luke 09 signing the onion, which is now on its way to Mr. Come On Wednesday, which it's a strange story, Justin, but I absolutely love it. You could say there's so many layers to it.
So many layers. Enough to make you cry, Ryan.
Here we go. This is what we're all about here at the Second Tier Podcast, just banging them out. There you go.
Jokes. Banging jokes out.
What?
Carry on.
We'll finish off, Justin, with Hull City, because their striker João Pedro had a bizarre and brief afternoon at Bristol City. He scored in the 13th minute and then was sent off 97 seconds later. Despite that, though, his teammates managed to hold on for a 1-1 draw. 3-word review for Bristol City. Phil on our Patreon says, opportunity unfortunately missed. For Hull, El Nacho says, sublime to stupid. I tell you what, in fairness to him, his goal was brilliantly taken. The turn to go past the defender was absolutely genius, but the tackle to get sent off was absolutely moronic.
Yeah, I'm in two minds with it. First off, the touch is bloody gorgeous from João Pedro. It really is. Unfortunately, the sending off does overshadow how lovely a goal that is. The tackle is moronic. He does try and pull out of it. It's worth pointing out. But I think when you leave the ground with 2 feet in the air, it's stupid to say out loud, you are asking for trouble there from the referee. And I think whether or not he's touched the player, you're just asking for a decision. I know Hull fans have also complained about a Cameron Pring tackle, which arguably, again, could have been a red card. But that's by the by. It was a daft decision from João Pedro, and just a typical striker's tackle who's probably really, really buzzing after what was probably one of the sexier goals of this season.
Yeah, maybe that was the case and he just got carried away. But I can't believe there are some Hull fans who are saying it's not a red. He got both feet off the ground, goes through the back of the player. It's reckless. It's essentially a drop kick, which, as far as I'm aware, aren't legal in football. So it's really, really stupid. In his defence, I can see what you're saying, Justin, and I doubt he intended it to look as bad as it did. But as soon as you leave the ground for a tackle, you're always going to be in trouble. And to do it after just 14 minutes is really, really daft. And after that, Hull didn't have a shot. Despite him being sent off in the 14th minute, Hull didn't have a shot after that point. Bristol City had 25. So fair play to them. They've done bloody well to grind out a point here, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. And again, it's just that grit that does convince you that they can start to pull away from the bottom three in that relegation trouble, because you've got to measure yourselves in moments like this. And of course, Bristol City equalised from the penalty spot as well, as worth pointing out. A rare penalty for Bristol City. So, if a little bit more luck and better moments defending, they can maybe see out a 1-0 win. But especially when you're conceding that many shots, one's bound to go in. But it was a penalty, so there's a lot of positives there to take from a Hull point of view. And maybe if João Pedro doesn't leave the ground with 2 feet, and maybe he just leaves the ground with 1 foot, he gets the yellow card, a brief talking to from the referee, and Hull win that game. So there are fine margins, I think, from a Hull point of view. So yeah, still a lot of positives, I think, and there's something there for them to build on despite them being paid back.
Liam Manning couldn't speak to the media after this game because he lost his voice, which might be a sign of how frustrating an afternoon it was for Bristol City. But as I said on Friday, if Hull won here, then I would probably start putting them in the safe bracket. And a draw's still a very good result, particularly in the circumstances. And despite Derby winning, I still think it's been a good weekend for Hull, especially considering every other team below them lost, apart from Derby, obviously. So they're on the right path to safety, in my view. Bristol City would have stayed level with a 6th if they won, so they've got to see that as a missed opportunity, without a doubt. Justin, let's do the polls. This is the part of the show where we give the listeners 3 questions on Twitter. Just want to get their thoughts on everything to do with the Championship. So the first question we asked was this: where do Leeds finish the season? 1st, 2nd, or 3rd?
I think they'll finish 1st, but I don't want to relay my narrative, but there are issues that I've brought to attention that just make me wobble a little bit.
We're not going to bring up those issues again. 54% of people said 1st, 27% said 3rd, 19% said 2nd. Who finishes as top goal scorer this season, Justin? Joel Pirro, Wilson Isidore, Boya Sainz, or Josh Sargent?
I think Josh Sargent will. I did see that Boy Sainz is top goal scorer, but he's not scored since November.
Yeah. Crazy how much he's just not done anything in several months now, isn't it? But Joel Pirro has come top of this particular poll. 37% said him, 29% said Josh Sargent, 24% said Wilson Isidore, 10% said Boya Sainz, which is mad when he's literally joint top goal scorer right now. I fancy Sargent as well. I think there's still a way to go. By the way, I think I'm right in saying that as things stand, we're on course for this to be the lowest scoring top goal scorer rankings that we've ever had in the Championship. I think the lowest tally previously was 21, I think.
Yeah,
I think that's right. And at the moment, the top goal scorer is on 15. So it could be a new low.
There's a deep dive here for one of your weekly videos, Ryan. The death of the number 9 in the Championship. It's a sad state of affairs. We've not seen good ones.
Maybe you're right.
Recently, apart from Mitrovic, Solanke, and
Tony.
Anyway.
Yeah, you should have just stuck to this season. You didn't need to go back any few seasons. And finally, what's the best Toy Story film? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
It's 2. It's Toy Story 2.
I love Toy Story 2. I don't know if it's just because I had it on video, so I used to watch it on a regular basis. But 2's always
I played the game. I played the game a lot.
And that 2, yeah. That may be why I've always loved 2 more. But the 3, oh my God, I cry like a baby every time I watch 3.
I think 3 is always going to be high because of that scene where they're on the conveyor belt. Spoiler alert, sorry guys. It has been 15 years.
They're all great.
All
of them
all
are great.
We've
never seen
films.
a series of films like the Toy Story films, which has just been banger after banger. It's ridiculous.
Banger after banger, exactly. Everyone's owned Toy Story stuff as a kid as well. Surely.
I don't know what that's got to do with the films, but
it just means you love them.
Oh, I love them, whether I've got the merchandise or what. Every Toy Story film is just an absolute beauty. 50% of people said Toy Story 1, though, Justin. Probably just because it's the original, I guess. 23% said 2, 21% said 3, 6% said 4. 4's good as well.
It's fun.
All of them.
It's fun.
Yeah, they're all good. I think I cried at that one as well. I'm just a big baby, really, aren't I? Patreon subscribers, don't go anywhere. We've got the extended edition of the weekend show coming up, which we like to call some more time. We'll be talking about another red card in the Championship this past weekend. Who will be leaving Sunderland if they don't go up this season? And Justin's unhappiness about the increased ban given to Liam Roberts for that challenge. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, sign up to get some more time in every single weekend show. Head over to patreon.com/second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. But otherwise, That's about time for us here on the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again on Thursday, so we look forward to seeing you then to talk about all the midweek action across the Champo. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.